And welcome back. The unemployment crisis caused by the pandemic, it's not letting up. We learned today that in just the past week, nearly 900,000 Americans applied for unemployment benefits for the very first time. That's on top of the tens of millions of people who are out of work, many of them now just struggling to feed their families. As people continue to suffer, President Biden, he's pushing very hard for Congress to pass his nearly $2 trillion stimulus plan. Also, he wants to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour so people who do have jobs can make a living wage. I want to bring in my next guest to discuss this and more. Congressman Donald Norcross. He's a Democrat from New Jersey. I know you've been a strong proponent of raising the minimum wage and the $15 number. Biden reiterated in his town hall meeting that he says the public's behind him on this. And I'm curious from your perspective, you've already got some Democrats who are saying, you know, I'm not going there. Manchin, Sinema in the Senate. He needs all 50 votes. Should he start trying to work for maybe a lower number? Should he hold firm to the 15? Where do you fall on this?
Let's put this in perspective. $7.25 an hour. This is the longest period of time in American history that the minimum wage hasn't been raised. We're talking about 12 years. And by the time, if it was implemented now, we're talking close to 17 years. That's 50 cents an hour. We should not even be having this conversation. It's predictably over the next 5 years that this would be phased in. My God, $7.25 an hour, there's nobody who thinks they can live on it. As Biden says, let's just not praise them, let's pay them. This is about fairness. You're seeing record profits in some areas, and it used to be when the company made money, you made money. But the idea of trying to keep people at $7.20, show me anybody who hasn't gotten a raise in 12 years, and I'll be with you. It just doesn't happen.
So how do we get over the hump? Because I'm agreeing with you. You got to have a living wage for these folks at the end of the day. You can't have people below the poverty line working 40 hours a week. That said, you're going to hear people say, hey, that's one thing in Jersey. You try coming down to Mississippi or some other places, $15 is going to put companies out of business.
Well, first of all, it will get to 15, and that's still not a survivable wage. It's closer, but nowhere close to what it used to be back in 1938 when we first implemented it. So to those who want to have a regional wage, I would say to you, fine, then let's do it for Social Security. Let's do it for all the grants you get. They're not based on where you live. So if you want to do it on one side of the ledger, you have to do it on the other. And as soon as you say that, they usually get a little bit quieter saying, okay, I understand it. We're talking about predictability. This levels the playing field, that your competition is going to be paying your workers what you're paying your workers if you're paying minimum wage. But what becomes incredibly important here is that you're going to win customers based on you being a better employer, being smarter, not on the backs of the workers who are making $7.25. Unreal.
One of the things I like, Congressman, is you don't dress up with a lot of BS where we are right now. I think the public needs to see something more than words, and certainly the stimulus would be tangible. Where are we on this right now? And is the problem for Biden, actually within his own party, the Democrats got to get behind this? They can do this on a party line vote if they got the stomach for it. At the end of the day, you got to deliver here. How close are we to making this happen?
It's going to get done. I think the hurdle is not so much one or two senators who are holding out. And listen, they're trying to have things addressed for them. And I know both of them. I think in their hearts they want to do the right thing, but obviously they're looking back home and hearing things. I think they'll be there. I think the bigger challenge is to make sure we can make it through the issues that might crop up in the Senate, whether or not they're germane to this bill, and I think that's a real challenge. But we got pretty smart people working on it. I think the language we'll end up with will get us there. I'm very optimistic. And if you look at any of the polls, and all I have to do is walk out into my town and find out people are hurt. They're hurting big time. And it's not the ones who are generally doing okay. The idea of missing some work is terrible, but the idea of being out of a job, that you're literally scrambling for food, That's why in this bill, we're addressing that SNAP benefits. And if you've seen any major city, the long lines for food gives out. It's really sad that our country is going through this. And we have the ability to fix it. We have to level that playing field and give everybody a chance.
Last thing, and I'm going to try and put it into human terms. I get asked a lot, how do folks look across the aisle after January 6th and ever trust some of the players who were really the instigators with the riot, with the certification of the vote and the Marjorie Taylor Greene nonsense? And for you, you used to be, well, you're still part of the New Jersey delegation with him. You have a Democrat, Jeff Van Drew, now a Republican, who didn't even vote to at least punish the QAnon follower, Taylor Greene, to be off the education committee after she harassed Parkland kids after a school shooting. And I can go on and on. Can you ever trust a guy like that again?
Jeff and I used to sit next to each other in the New Jersey Senate. Nobody was more surprised than me when he decided to change his values on the way he sees things going. Incredibly disappointing. But at the end of the day, I can't tell you, I was sitting on that floor when the insurrection happened. I was part of that. The idea of people trying to deny that in this day and age is pretty remarkable. But my personal feelings, putting those aside, we have to hold those accountable who did it. But we have to also perform for the American people who voted to put us there. I don't care if I like or hate a guy. If we're working towards an issue that there is going to be help for the American people, I'm going to be there. I won't be having dinner with that person, but in the end of the day, we need to help them. And I think that trumps, no pun intended, everything else that we do. We have to do it.
All right. Hey, Congressman, I always appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Great to be here. Appreciate it.
You too. When we come back, everyone, we are going to bring up to date the latest when it comes to the nursing home scandal in New York. That's as more and more now Democrats are even turning on the governor as we see new calls for federal investigations into what exactly happened.